I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along. Thank you for joining the program. Let me start by inviting you to invite everybody you know to connect with us, to get with the conversation. I promise you we're doing some wonderful things in 2023, reformatting, reprogramming, rebranding, and looking at how we proceed in ways that are more exciting, more challenging. We want to give you more information. We want to give you more instruction, things you can do with the information, and we want to give you more inspiration. We call that the 3 I's: to inform, to instruct, and to inspire. That's what this is all about. And we promise you today will be no exception. Today's program includes interviews with two dear friends of mine, leaders in the community. Valerie Fleurantin is the founder of VF Solutions. We'll talk about her take on health and mental health and the body and community. She's doing wonderful, wonderful work. We're also going to be talking with David McGee. David McGee is executive director of it's called the project we're talking about is 9,000 Equities, a program to get 9,000 families into becoming homeowners. But the overall organization is called Build Wealth Minnesota. And what Build Wealth Minnesota is doing and has done is creating a model that they have demonstrated is effective in moving people from being kind of at the margins of revenue generation and of living a good life solidly into a planful strategy to do better, be better, to approach being their real selves, the selves they deserve to be, they desire, that they feel, and that they're capable of being. And it takes training. And so he's got a project called Build Wealth Minnesota that provides hands-on training. And what they're doing is actually replicating the model nationwide. We'll talk about that. But we've added this new feature to the program. We're calling it Hot Topics. And we want to sort of look briefly at a couple of things that are going on around the country and locally here. And one thing that hit the news yesterday, I think I have in front of me a letter addressed to Congresswoman Taylor Greene, right? And this was the attorney for Dr. Dre sending a sort of cease and desist letter to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was using, without permission, creative property, intellectual property from Dre. And so the lawyer wrote, this is a great letter, we write you on behalf of our client, Andre Young, who's also known as Dr. Dre, composer, performer of the hit song Still Dre, still D-R-E, Dre. You are wrongfully exploiting this work through the various social media outlets to promote your divisive and hateful personal agenda. Andre Young is the owner of the copyright in Still Dre with the exclusive rights to exploit same. Mr. Young has not and will never, let me say it again, and will never, now is that plain? I think that's plain, will never grant you permission to broadcast or disseminate any of his music. The use of Still Dre without permission constitutes copyright infringement in violations of number 17 USC number 501, technical language. It says, one might expect that as a member of Congress, you would have a passing familiarity with the laws of our country. It's possible, though, that laws governing intellectual property are a little too arcane and insufficiently populist for you to really have spent much time on. We're writing because we think, as an actual lawmaker, you should be making, not breaking laws, especially those embodied in the Constitution of the Founding Fathers. It goes on, but that's toasty. So kudos to Dr. Dre for standing his ground, as they say, and jacking up Marjorie Taylor Greene That story has kind of gone viral. It's hit all the national press. It's a good story. Follow it, check it out. And I'm looking at a report on Twitter. The headline was Dr. Dre hits Representative Marjorie Greene with a cease and desist for using his song via Twitter. So check it out. It's a good story. Follow it. Another hot topic. Locally here, the family of Deshaun Hill has reached a $500,000 settlement a year after his shooting death. And I'm looking in my notes here of reports that were on WCCO TV. This was a story, I think, yesterday, day before, and it said Minneapolis Public Schools agreed Tuesday night to a $500,000 settlement with the family of the 15-year-old North High student, star quarterback, who was killed following an unplanned early release from school. The school board agreed to a settlement with the family nearly a year after his death. The family's attorney says the payment is the highest amount allowed through the district. Deshaun was shot and killed a few blocks from the high school on February 9th, 2021, a day that we are told students were encouraged to leave early to attend a demonstration following the killing by the police of Amir Locke. That's in Minneapolis. And attorney William Walker says Deshaun's death was preventable. He was headed home and would be alive today if the principal had not released the students without notifying the parents, giving them a chance to pick up their child. The principal was put on leave, but reinstated a few months later. Well, it's a big story, but the community really felt the loss. Walker, the attorney says, the Hill family continues to grieve, open quote. He was the star of his family. They looked to him for hope. He was an honor roll student. He was the captain of the football team and the star quarterback. So, well, we grieve with that family. We grieve as a community, a tragic, unnecessary loss of life. And it's hopeful that and helpful that the company did pursue the legal redress that they could, and the settlement that has come. Obviously, you can never replace the value, the power, the presence of a life, but people have to be held accountable. Well, there's one more hot topic that I want to get to, and that is about the Minneapolis School Board. And we've been kind of monitoring pulling my notes down here just a second, watching and monitoring the unveiling of new plans. And the park board announced that they are sharing 4 new concepts for improving North Commons Park. North Commons Park is like a wonderful, beautiful park. It's a block or two from North High School, and it's been kind of regarded as an oasis in the heart of North Minneapolis. And so now community members are getting their first look at what the park could look like in the future. Shanika Sudduth, a community member, said, "I've lived here now for 50 years, and it's time for North Commons to have a change. It's time for our youth to get what they deserve. It's time for North Minneapolis to get the investment," she said. So the Park and Rec Board has hosted some community open houses. They did one last Tuesday night to unveil these 4 new concepts, and the concepts refurbish and expand the current park, one of them, 1 and 2, and then the other 2 present major modifications that they really want the community to weigh in on and get behind. Well, check it out. Just go to the Minneapolis Park Board, go to the local newspapers, and you'll find stories on plans, big plans, to invest to improve our neighborhood park in North Minneapolis. Well, I want to get into the program today, and as I promised, it's a great program. I'm pleased to have my friend Val Fleurantin here, first of all. And Val has a company. Company is called VF Solutions. Val, and we got a video too. Let's do the video, and then we'll bring Val in to talk about her work and her vision.
In 2014, a local computer engineer decided to pursue her passion for physical fitness. Today, Valerie Fleurantin runs her own business. It's a one-woman operation, and she is working to make an impact in the community, one step at a time. This is Afro Caribe, created by instructor Valerie Fleurantin. It's dance fitness with a mix of reggae, Afro beats, and hip hop.
I needed something with some drums and that where I can celebrate my culture.
8 years ago, she pivoted from a career in computer engineering to physical fitness. Today, she's known as Coach Val.
I wanted to make fitness fun, something that you don't have to think about. It's like I'm coming to just dance, and you're getting well while you're doing it.
What began as a class of 5 has grown by the dozen.
In my classes, you'll see kids that are starting from the ages of 4 to my older mamas that are in the class that are in, mama's 80. One of my oldest is 80.
Her classes taking participants to locations in downtown Minneapolis and the city's north side.
For me, it's removing the barriers and making a real dent in the disparities that exist for our community.
Minnesota is one of the healthiest states in the country, but it has some of the greatest health disparities in the nation.
Fitness is good for depression, anxiety, stress, all things that plague our community.
To the streets. Several times a month, she instructs free donation-based classes where participants, she says, stand to gain a lot.
I hope that you felt seen. I hope that you felt heard. I hope that you felt loved. And I hope that you had a great time. And that's what I want them to leave.
Coach Val, wonderful video. My friend, how are you? Happy New Year. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Great smile. You know, I have to tell people that you and I have worked together before, and you have always brought a passion, a vibe, an understanding that epitomizes what it means to be a healer and epitomizes and delivers on the proposition of healing. Your presence, your work, your attitude, you got a kick butt attitude when you teaching people how to do the workout. You take no prisoners, you accept no excuses, and people have to rise, and you make them rise to the occasion. So I say that in a way of saying kudos, kudos, kudos. Good to see you again, Coach Val.
Good to see you.
So let's just jump into it. You know, talk about the vision, the mission, the work you're doing now, and how people can both follow and engage, connect with the leadership and service and training that you're providing.
Absolutely. So I started in 2014, as you heard on the video. You know, I was a software engineer, and I was really listening to KMOJ, and they were talking about they were sharing about the health disparities that exist on the North Side. And at that time, I was a North Side resident, and you know, I play on the North Side, I work on the North Side. And to hear these disparities, it really jolted me and got me really, really upset, especially I came from Florida. I'm a Caribbean girl from Haiti. And, but when I came here, you know, it was like, well, this is one of the healthiest states in the nation. But then the disparities are glaring, like, you know, more than 30% of the Black community here, Minnesotans are obese, and 72% are likely to have diabetes, and 56% of our children are obese. And to know that 30 these diseases, if you go 15 miles out, they're not as high, right? And these diseases are 80% preventable. 80% preventable. So there's really no excuse, but there are. So many. And so when I heard this, I was actually on a sabbatical going through some life changes. And it just really hit me in a way where I decided that this was really it. This is where I want to make a difference, and this is where I want to make an impact. And since 2014, I've just been doing the work.
Amazing. And you are now working with an organization called Finovation, right? You're one of their scholars or their uh, partners?
Well,
Finovation?
I was actually a fellow.
Fellow, that's the right word for it.
Yes, I was a fellow of Finnovations in 2020, 2021, I believe.
Mhm.
Yes, so I was part of their cohort. It was a fellowship that actually uh, had me think about how do I want to um, make this a business that's thriving and still follow my mission, because their work is around social work.
Mhm.
And so what I arrived, which was very helpful, that helped me create a business plan and helped me really think of myself as a leader, like what kind of leader do I want to be? And
Mhm.
also, how do all of the parts fit? And so what I came up with is I have the community wellness that I've started since 2014 that I've been very passionate about. And the community wellness is where I offer donation-based classes to the North Side.
Mhm.
Mondays and Fridays, 6 p.m. I'm going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
6:30,
Yeah.
6:30. Change the time because my kid has basketball. Um, but, I've been doing those classes. So it's the Afro-Caribe class.
Mhm.
And so that leads me into the Afro-Caribe, which is what I've created to celebrate my culture and
Mhm.
have a thing that is for us, where we don't have to code switch or we just can show up as ourselves and
Mhm.
enjoy and have fun. And it really hides what it's really doing, which is the fitness, right? And so with that, I would like to certify coaches to teach Afro-Caribe all over.
Hmm.
The third piece of my business, which is organizational wellness management,
Mhm.
where I've been in that space and we are not there. So that is in the space that I'm talking about is fitness and wellness coaching within organizations in the Twin Cities. And
For
so
example, a company, maybe a Northside company, 10, 12 employees or 20 or 30 or 100, is doing the right thing by creating the jobs, but it could do more to make those jobs more fulfilling for their workers, employees by incorporating a strategy for physical and mental health well-being. Is that the point? Is that the direction?
that is exactly the point. You hit it right on the head. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So, and we would love to bring coaches in, BIPOC coaches, all sorts of
Mhm.
coaches to just do the work.
I'm going to ask you later on. I'm going to bring my next guest in, but I'll bring you back on in a few because I want to have a conversation between the three of us because I want to examine. David McGee is going to join us talking about Build Wealth Minnesota and the phenomenal work he's doing to encourage home ownership, uh, creating equity for our community, for our families, for our people. And I want to examine when I bring you back in is have a conversation about the intersection of health and wealth. How do we use wealth creating, wealth pursuit in a way that uh, is also reflecting our pursuit of health and wealth hand in hand, that intersection. So, Val, thank you. Hang out for a second and let me bring in my next guest, David McGee. Brother David McGee, brother, so good to see you. Happy
Nice.
New Year to you. And
Happy New
thank you
Year
for
to you as
being
well.
here. How you doing?
Good, good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Always good to see you and to be with you. What you're doing is transformative in the individual lives of members of our community, but collectively you're having an impact on those disparities that Val was just talking about. One of them is wealth, and wealth obviously guides or informs our health, our political well-being, our cultural well-being. You got to have the capacity to produce and earn a living. And our intent is to teach our people how to think about generational wealth as well. Uh, Talk about build wealth. I think we're going to also show your video. Yeah, I'll find out if we have that queued up. I think we do. But let's have you talk about the Build Wealth Minnesota proposition. What is it? How did it start? And where are you in the arc of the development of this movement, Building Wealth Minnesota?
Wow. Well, we've been going on for 18 years now. We started back in 2004, and I've been a banker for 40 years now, banking and financial services. But we have been trying to address disparities. I was just hearing in the article that you just recently had about Minnesota just being, one of the richest states in the nation. However, the disparities that exist in all areas, health, wealth, finance, home ownership, employment, all those areas. And a lot of the time I was involved in banking, I did a lot of work around mortgage-backed securities and residential mortgages and things of that nature. And I was actually an underwriter, and I trained underwriters. And that's the person who decides whether or not you're going to get a loan. And the time when there was only like 15 Black ones in the nation, I was one of those. And so we really started Build Wealth Minnesota, spun from a company that me and my wife started training underwriters to get into the financial services field. And then as we were contract underwriting, we started noticing a lot of practices that were going on in our communities about folks taking advantage of people of color by providing them with some really hard lending products that was going to harm them. And so we had started Build Wealth Minnesota to start teaching people and build wealth. Our elevator speech is we're trying to help families build sustainable, something you can keep, sustainable social and economic wealth. And so our programming is really based around the family stabilization plan. It's a real comprehensive curriculum that we provide, as well as it's a model where there's like 10 weeks of classes that families take, and then up to 2 years worth of coaching. And we're really teaching some really intricate details around systems, good and bad. And especially with people of color and Black folks, there's been a lot of conditioning over decades and centuries, for that matter, about keeping things from us. And I guess, biblically it says we perish because of lack of knowledge, and because of lack of knowledge, we perish. And so when we don't know about certain systems, we can be conditioned out of not accessing things, and we lose hope on the possibilities of even accessing things like home ownership and things of that nature. Over the since 2005, we have been working on trying to address closing the home ownership disparity gap and getting more Black families into home ownership. And here over the last couple of years, as we want to thank you and your paper and your team and your staff for helping us with this 9,000 Equities initiative that we started about 2 years ago.
Let me take a second before you describe that and give some background. I think I shared with you, but I'll share with our viewers and our listeners an article from State Line, and the headline says Black families fall further behind on home ownership. This is an article that was published October 13th, 2022, written by Tim Henderson. And he's talking about this story, particularly DC, Philadelphia, East Coast, but the principles, occur all around the country. And it said that cities are trying to boost Black home ownership, which dropped to a 60-year low, even before the economic turmoil brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. Black home ownership fell in 2019 to 40.6%, which is down from the 2004 peak of 49.7%. The rate has rebounded somewhat since then, but advocates remain dismayed at how decades after the 1968 Fair Housing Act, Black families still struggle to become homeowners at the same rate as white peers. To see Black home ownership rate lower than the generation before is shocking, considering what earlier generations faced, said Janeki Radcliffe, Vice President of Housing Finance Policy Center at the Urban Institute in Washington, D.C. And the article goes on to talk about the persistence of redlining, challenges that come with regentrification, the increasing number of homes being scooped up by investors. All of these contribute to this growing and glowing black-white disparity in homeownership, which is larger now than it was in the early 60s before the 1968 Fair Housing Act and other civil rights legislation. So that's kind of the background, David. And so you have mobilized a response, one of several, I think probably around the country, but one that has gotten traction. So talk about the 9,000 Equities program that we work with you in promoting this past year.
Yeah, the 9,000 equities, and just as you were saying, we have been working on closing the disparity gap since 2005. And here locally, the homeownership rate for African Americans was at 32% back in 2005. It's 19% in the city of Minneapolis. It's going the other way. And so we have been doing.
So hold it. So it was
going the other way.
30%.
It was 32, and now it's 19.
So we really have lost a lot.
We've consistently.
So not only have we lost housing, we've lost wealth, right?
Yeah, wealth has been stripped.
Housing is wealth for most of us.
Home ownership is a way of the number one way of building wealth in our country, and literally in the world is owning land and homes is where the vast majority of wealth is derived in families and building legacies for your family. Number one way. Even though, so Build Wealth Minnesota, me and my team and Jeff Robinson, I think you've met Jeff, our senior program director. We sat down with our team and decided that we were going to close the disparity gap and get it on a pathway, hopefully in a trajectory, maybe not in our lifetime, that it actually closes. Build Wealth has been very successful in getting thousands of Black families in the home over the last nearly 20 years. And we found a really good formula, a good delivery system, and a good education system to be able to provide that. And so now we just started, we started framing it up in a way where we were going to present it to the stakeholders in a way that says, hey, it's been validated through the University of Minnesota. All of our work has, it's shown we have a track record that has been proven, and we haven't been able to take it to the level of scale that we need to. And so we packaged it in a way, presented it, found some help outside of the state of Minnesota to help us start presenting it in a way to stakeholders, both in Minnesota and out of Minnesota, who have been literally providing tens of millions of dollars of support around our system and open up opportunities for us to have our own loan pool. As an underwriter, we always talk about the disparities and all the different reasons why we're disparaged and why the gap is there. Underwriters are the ones who make the decision on whether or not we actually can close on a loan. And so underwriters are part of the reason why a number of Black families are not homeowners today, either by dragging out the process, delaying the process, creating barriers in the process that we don't always talk about. But anyway, so we have created our own loan pool that through this 9,000 equities. We've created a team of folks that have made it their life's work to help families get into home ownership. And we've also partnered up with a number of really great stakeholders, the Bush Foundation, Northwest Area Foundation, several foundations, the Polat Family Foundation have put up with you know how you say put up or shut up? They've literally made an investment to make sure that we were able to really get some traction and really start putting some energy into moving the dial to close the disparity gap. Since that time, there's a number of other larger collaborations that have gotten wind of it and groundbreak. I think that's headed by the McKnight Foundation, and U.S. Bank is doing another really major thing with Access Home. There's a number of different other organizations that are starting to look in on 9,000 equities, and they're starting to put energy and try to collaborate and align with us to start getting more Black folks into home ownership.
Well, one thing this conversation is doing is placing the 9,000 equities and the work that Bill Wolf is doing in front of the Black Press of America. One of the venues that we work with and through is the YouTube platform of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. We call it Black Press USA. And we're also streaming live to the Black Press USA Facebook, as well as the ones that we control here and own here in Minnesota. So we're getting you that position to connect with national media colleagues of mine with the story that you are bringing forward. I want to show that video that you sent to me yesterday, and then come back and bring Coach Val in as well. But I want to ask you about that period of time. You talked about, again, our ownership going from 30% to 19%, that you're making headways to turn that around in the other direction. But I kind of want to know why it happened. And the reason I want to know is that too often, if it's unsaid, people will assume that there are inherent deficiencies in Black people's character, in our ability to comprehend, in our knowledge, or in our desire, our will to be productive, to be focused on wealth creation and building community. So I want to talk about that when we come back. Let's watch this video.
Plan, you'll also discover how you can prioritize and optimize the non-monetary aspects of your life that you value most, such as your time, your health, and your relationship with loved ones. This blended learning course will help you to build your own family stabilization plan. The final plan will be personal to you, taking into account your relationships, personal circumstances, and goals. In addition to making our family stabilization course booklets available to everyone who purchases the course, we also provide other intuitive learning techniques to keep our learners engaged. We include in-course interactions that allow our learners to provide their opinions on important topics like what does sustainable wealth mean to you, what makes up a good and bad relationship, and why these are important to your financial stability. We also include mid-course knowledge checks, along with the quiz that you must pass at the end of each unit to move on to our next courses. Upon completion of our 10 courses, you will be given a certificate of achievement for the Family Stabilization Plan. Along the way, we will ask you to complete exercises in your booklet that you will be able to reference as you continue your personal wealth journey beyond this course. Congratulations on taking this first step towards building sustainable wealth. We look forward to your journey with us.
So you're packaging the training, the coursework that you bring. Tell me how this works. Tell me how a person calls you up and says, Mr. McGee, my credit is around 200. I mean, I got no credit, but I'd like to have a house someday, but I can't even get a credit card or can't get anything. What should I do? What do you tell them?
We try to get them enrolled in the Family Stabilization Program. It's like I said earlier, it's very comprehensive. And historically, we've had in-class, where we've actually do those classes in class, but since the pandemic, we've shifted and everything's been virtual since we've been in the pandemic, where people will actually come in. We don't just teach you about the credit. We won't just teach you about home ownership. As I said earlier, we're teaching you about systems and literally how to be wealthy. And I was so glad that this health part you're talking about with your other guests. But we're trying to bring a holistic approach to being wealthy. Wealth isn't just about money. It really boils down to relationships, not always what you know, it's who you know. And a lot of times, since we've gone through all of this conditioning, we've lost really the definition of what true wealth is. And that is a lot of times it's relationships, and family is where our strength comes from. And because of systems, it's separated us over time, and it's taken our focus off of where our true wealth comes from, and not just that social component, then the economic wealth, which deals with different systems around banking and credit and about housing and employment and investing and risk and rate and return. We brought all of those together in order to bring a real good, strong, stable platform for families in which to start building up their lives from here until eternity. So credit is never an issue, because if you learn about a credit system, then you're not just trying to get a credit score and chasing a score. You're literally trying to build up your credit presence for you and your family for here and to the next generation. So you're starting to build up your children's credit before they even get out of high school. So by the time they get out of college, they're already having 700 credit scores, and they know what credit means and how important it is in order for them.
That's a conversation we're not having right now around the dinner table, the one that we should.
But right now, we're doing outreach. So we're in high schools, we're in secondary schools, and we're doing outreach at a number of different organizations. And so here recently, took about a year to actually, since we went virtual, we never thought that online would work. But since we went virtual and been doing the classes in Zoom, it's been working wonderfully. So we decided that we were going to create an online version of our family stabilization plan. And we just completed it about 2 months ago. And so it's going to go live. And that was that video. That was just kind of a demo, a promo of you going live. And you can actually now, folks will be able to go online, take the course, go through 10 30-minute courses over time within 60 days, and they'll get a certificate. And we're HUD approved, certified through the Financial Opportunity Centers of LISC, and a number of different certifications that we have that bring a lot of credibility. University of Minnesota works with us as well. So it brings credibility to this. We want to go national with this curriculum. It has been changing lives. It has been getting folks into home ownership, getting folks into building sustainable economic and social wealth. And we really need our social wealth and the Black community restored in a sense. And so
let me bring Coach Val back in, and thank you for hanging out with us, Coach Val. And I wanted to kind of broaden the conversation because, both of you are talking about coaching, and you're coaching people with the center of the coaching, personal well-being and health, but it applies to more than just a push-up, more than just a squat. It really is a tool to get you to be thinking broadly about what it means to be healthy and self-reliant and capable of navigating at your best in the community. Is that right, Coach Bell? Am I saying that the right way?
Absolutely. Because I know you've been working, Insight News has been working on that part as well for years. And it's been a pleasure to work with you guys for this one mission that we've had. And yes, it's a tool. And, we're talking about wealth, and Mr. McGee talked about how we were stripped, or how we've been taken away from what real wealth is. And our health is also the real wealth. If you think about it, you don't have the health. What do you have? What do you have? How do you move forward? Right? Those are things that you can't control. So yes.
And David, from your point of view, how do you see the connection between people being healthy and having command of their economic, their wealth-making future? I mean, do you feel enough of our people actually sit and take time to think about what wealth means? Are we so trained, indoctrinated, programmed into, putting in the 40 hours, getting the check, seeing it disappear before we're able to save any of it, or even not having the training on how to save, even if you're not making a lot of money? How do you change your situation by what you do with what you have? What's the story, David?
Yeah, I think there's a direct correlation. I think that a lot of us are sick because of chasing money and being on this treadmill of just working and not really looking at wealth in a much broader sense. A lot of times, when you're broke, you're stressed. Stress brings on anxiety. Anxiety brings that we tease about it in the class, but usually when you're stressed out, even when you don't have money, you find money to drink, smoke, or eat, so to speak. And we are Black folks. We're notorious for being the biggest consumers on the planet, and it isn't always a healthy way of consuming. And so, definitely, our health is totally tied in with economics. And when we have lack economics and lack hope, a lot of times we're depressed, and depression causes a whole nother area of high blood pressure. And as you were one of the participants at our Black Men's Legacy Summit, we made sure we were taking away every excuse for a Black man in order to succeed and holistically. And so we had a doctor there from North Point talking about our health and some of the things that what sense or what difference does it make if I got a lot of money, but I can barely breathe, or I'm on a machine and can barely walk, So there's a correlation with having good health and having holistic wealth, which deals with my health, my finances, my knowledge, my wisdom, my family, and the unity of me and my family and my community. All of those things that brings a level of wealth that can be passed down and breaks the cycle of what we've gone through since slavery. We've been separated since slavery. There's so many systems that have been created to keep us divided, to keep us in prison, to keep us enslaved, and keep us in bondage. I know that'll be a whole nother show, but there's systems that have been created to keep us chasing different things and not getting the knowledge and the wisdom that we need, which to help strengthen our wealth. And I believe I'm a pastor, so I think all of us have gifts and talents, and our gifts and our talents are supposed to make room for us. But when our hope is lost, it doesn't allow us the ability for us to start expanding on those witty ideals and dreams that we have. And none of us have rich uncles that can give us money and plant seeds into our dreams. There's some other cultures that either are united or they have rich uncles that can actually seed their visions and their dreams. And I'm on a mission to try to get people to have some economic wealth to pass down to the next generation. So we're always leaving an inheritance for our children's children, so we can break this cycle.
Coach Val, what's your personal vision for yourself through your business? You want the business you're coaching to deliver what for the people that you're teaching and coaching? And as you are delivering that, what do you want your work to deliver to you, and for the generations that follow you?
Well, my work, I want to deliver healing. I want to deliver empowerment, and also just the importance of coming back to community and being in one accord when it comes to our health, and bring awareness that movement is needed, just like drinking water and breathing, you need to keep moving. And because there's so many great things that come with movement, right? You talked about depression. It's like, it's a double-edged sword. You're like, I don't have any money, I'm getting depressed, but if I go and do this workout, that gives me this space. I come out of there in this euphoria. And it helps with the anxiety. It helps with the depression. It helps with just even like the self-esteem. So those are the things that I want to deliver. And also with what I want to leave for my child, mostly what I want to leave for my community is a sustainable business, right? It's a sustainable business movement, right? Because I want us to keep having donation-based classes where fitness is accessible to mothers. Because at the point where I started my business, I just became a single mom. I just left my job and I didn't have, I just ran through the money. I was on welfare and all of those things. And I had a gym membership and I was like, no, I don't want to do that because I have to decide whether I'm paying for food, I'm paying for entertainment for my kid, or I'm going to go take care of myself, right? And for me, it was like, yes, when I started this business, there needs to be a way to give empowerment to our people around their health.
Self-care is a term that you hear a lot now. Talk about that. And the reason I brought it up, and you reminded me, I am always pleased to tell people that I see my therapist every Friday morning at 8:30 for an hour, and I've been in therapy for at least about maybe 2 years through Dr. Brevada Garrett Akinsania's company, Brakens Consulting, and Psychological Services. And for me, it's important, for me personally, number one, to keep looking at me and trying to figure out me in relation to the world and my history and my fears and my dreams and what I want to do going forward. But I think it's equally important as a communicator that I feel comfortable enough to talk about that publicly, because I want to encourage other Black men in particular, Black people in general, to turn to coaching resources in our community that can support us in our effort to continue emerging into our best selves. So I forgot what the question was. I was going to ask you, Coach Val, how do we get our people to embrace this idea that we all deserve better and we can all have better? We simply must decide to do better and then avail ourselves of resources like Build Wealth, like your coaching expertise to make that move. What do you think?
Well, you just said it all, though, Mr. Al. You said it all. We need to really look at self-care, and we have. I think there's been like a really radical movement towards self-care and Black folk just not putting that stigma around getting therapy, right? My son is 14 and he asked me for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
He asked for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's different levels of self-care. Myself as an entrepreneur, what I saw is that a lot of us don't take care of ourselves. We're so busy with trying to put this business together, trying to go here, go there, and do all of the things. And we don't make ourselves a priority, right? And so we have to come back to that. And what does that mean even? What does that mean? And I love that you pointed out that you go to your therapist,
Mm-hmm.
because people usually think it's like a bubble bath and
Mm-hmm.
some candles or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different ways
Mm-hmm.
of looking at what self-care is for you. When I look at what I need as a person, I look at the natural elements of therapy. And that means for me, that's music, that's being outside, putting my hands in the dirt, that's sitting under the sun, that's, and that's just the joy of movement and dancing. So those are the things that I put into play. Like I have my list of things that I go to when I need to take care of myself. Quiet time, 15-minute meditation, all of those things. What does that mean to you? What brings you joy? And where can you pull away and sit out and just enjoy that and taking care of you and making yourself a priority?
I think I've seen a note here. I'll be presenting it here saying that 2023 for Black women, it's going to be the year of radical self-care. And that affirms what you're saying, Coach Val, that, really, 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 we have to have this conversation in our community among all of us that says to Black women, you are powerful and dangerous in a good way, right? Because of your power. And so self-care is critical, it's important, and something that we have to sort of pay attention to. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yes, because what we've seen as a trend is that we are tired. We are tired. We experience it all.
Mm-hmm.
were treated as at the bottom of the totem pole. We've held everything on our shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
and we are tired.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're taking that. We're saying, nope.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's my time.
Mm-hmm.
It's my time, and I believe in that, and we are moving towards that, and I'm behind that.
All right. David, jump in. Self-care. How does this question of self-care factor in to your work as a pastor, as an educator, but also as a builder of wealth, enabling people to become wealth builders, both individually and in their family, and as a consequence, building wealth in the community? And you've said this already, getting focused on intergenerational wealth. How do we get to where there's an intention, and part of the becoming a parent means being planful in understanding and undertaking the responsibilities of the generation that you're going to create, in creating and bringing children into the world. And how do we even think about not my grandson, not my son, but my sons or my daughters' sons and daughters? Or how do we start thinking about 5 generations out? And if we think that way, how will that order our steps today differently? David, what do you think?
I just think self-care is a necessity. And I just don't think that we're sometimes selfish enough. And I don't mean in a bad way,
Mhm.
but God's a selfish God. And I think we a lot of times spend more time worrying about how people see us and how the world sees us, as opposed to, really taking stock in our own self and our own family and the unity of our families. And just looking at, as I'm teaching families and coaching families, looking at what our past has been to get to where we are right now, making sure that my great grandchildren don't struggle with the struggles of life that we've had. You know what I mean? So I think that self-care and making sure that I'm at peace and I'm content, I'm not stressing, and I'm in a place where, my spiritual, my mental, my physical, my emotional, and my economics are in line and are balanced. And I know that's a lot to say, and it takes a lot to get there. But I guess when you start getting good wisdom and knowledge in all of these areas, and finding good coaches, and I'm glad you're, going and getting support from someone else that can just hear you.
Mhm.
A lot of times we just don't have a place where people can hear what's in our heart. We got a lot of silent screams going on,
Mhm.
from all the pain and the
Mhm.
suffering and the
Mhm.
trauma that we've been through in life. Sometimes we've gotten almost immune to carrying trauma as a Black man, or as a Black woman carrying trauma. And as you were saying, the Black woman has carried us to hell and high water. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
still expected to carry more. And you're just giving, 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 and giving, giving, giving. People are taking, taking, taking. Over time, that really, if you don't get a handle on it and try to get some contentment and get into a place where you have a holistic view on your finances and your relationships, and um, setting the stage for your future, so we're not always stressed and always chasing what we call the little nickel. Always looking for the little nickel and scrambling for finances, when there's a system, and there's systems that if we know how to navigate through them, our family can really do well. And if we can come together as a family, pool our resources and pool
Mm.
our wisdom and our access to things, can make it so much better on ourselves. And when there's been systems that have been to separate us, and now our wealth is scattered and abroad, so to speak, then we find ourselves isolated trying to do it on our own, and we can't do it on our own.
Mm.
We need each other,
Okay.
and we've gotten into a society that has made us feel, that we need to do this by ourselves. People are
Mhm.
killing themselves and being
Mhm.
convinced to commit suicide.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? We're in an all time, it's even younger. You got 7 and 8 and 10, 11-year-olds that are talking about suicide. What are you? You don't even know life. to even have a decision like that.
Right.
So it's really starting to impact our, our emotional and physical and mental health in ways that
We're down to
we
the
need
last
some.
5 minutes here, David and Coach Val. Let me ask you both personally to give the elevator speech. I'd like to let our listeners and viewers know kind of where you've come from and whose shoulders you stand on. David, you first. If you can do this in about a minute, talk about your parents and grandparents that brought you to this point of decision in your life, your study, your wife, your family.
Well, I think my mom was a historian and ended up working at the hospital for a number of years in housekeeping because that was the place she needed to go. My dad was an actual accountant. But as a black man, there was no white men that were going to let him do the accounting in the 40s and 50s. So he ended up being a bulwark at the packing houses for most of his life. But that knowledge and that wisdom they passed down about family and about the need for family and the need to gravitate to wisdom and knowledge around counting and credit and different things way before it was time, and introduced me to banking. And I've been in love with banking ever since my dad did. And those things stuck with me. And so I'm pouring that into my children. They're all homeowners and they all have equity. And so I'm starting to set the stage for my grandchildren. So I'm standing on the shoulders, I'm going to say, of my dad and many other men that have gone on and passed on. A lot of them because of stress and murder and all kinds of other things that this world has dished out.
Val, same question to you. If you think about what and who have poured into you to be Coach Val today, what do you come up with?
So many. My grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my uncles, because we were immigrants when we came here, so they all had to pull together. I remember when all 6 of us or something lived in a 2-bedroom apartment.
You came from Haiti, right? From Haiti, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, And my first memory of fitness is actually my grandfather was a fitness freak. He used to wake up every morning and do push-ups and sit-ups and all of that. And so, and myself and my brother used to get up in the morning, early dawn, and do it with him, and that was fun for us. So that's my earliest recollection.
You were having fun. He was training you, and you didn't know it. You were just having a good time.
Right.
That's called wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, this has been a wonderful conversation. I want to thank you, Coach Val, and thank you, David McGee, for both doing the work that you do in community. And thank you for being here. I want to have you both come back. David, you and I are going to be planning a series of ways to bring on board different stakeholders that you work with to execute the 9,000 Equities Initiative, but also the family programming that you're doing. And I just want to say thank you for having the courage, the vision, and the tenacity to go against the odds and to build something, to create something new, to build the wealth. Coach Val, same with you. You have a vision and you have passion. And I can tell you that you are a healer that has impact in the lives of individuals and in the lives of our community. So thank you both very much. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I want you to be part of our vision, our journey, our work. How can you help? You can help by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Now, you might be watching us on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on Facebook. Great. Keep checking us out there. But what I'm asking you to do is to go over to the Insight YouTube channel and become a subscriber. We've got about maybe 200, 300 subscribers at present. Our short-term goal is to get 1,000 subscribers on the Insight YouTube channel. You can help by becoming a subscriber, and then do me the favor, help me out. Connect with your family, your friends, people you know, your address book, and say, look, I'm getting with Al on the conversation, and let's put Al over. Let's put this program. He's got a goal of 1,000 subscribers. Let's, the 40 or 50 or 100 of us come in as a group and all sign up today and become members of the conversation. We want to have this exponential growth. Listen, thank you all. Thank you so much. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation. We'll see you tomorrow.